Quotation from myself, segment 1. Introduction. It is a well-known fact, as regrettable as it may be, that majority of writers, even the great ones, are remembered by most of us, at best, by only a few quotations from many pages they have written. Bearing this in mind, I decided not to waste mine or anyone else's time, but to write a book which contains nothing but quotations, namely the quotation from myself. There are no any apparent or even intended connections between them. They are the different thoughts that came to my mind at different times and under different circumstances. Some of them are rather long for a quotation. Others are so short they sound almost axiomatic. But however long or short it is, each quotation represents, in a more or less condensed form, the end result of lifelong experience and perpetual reflections. I would also like to remind the listeners that though I try to support every point and statement I make, but some arguments, they are by no means exhaustive and rigorous in a strictly philosophical sense. Being essentially a private person, I just want to share my views, not to prove them to be absolutely correct, and to convince the others to accept them as such. And lastly, I have not spared any effort in trying to make each and every quotation as clear and concise as I could. Whether I have succeeded or not is for the listeners to judge. And now let us begin. Quotation number 1. When I was young, I had, as befitting such a tender age, many more questions than answers. Nowadays, quite often, I find myself having more answers than questions. Am I getting old? Number 2. The biggest problem of the world today is that everybody, in one sense or another, seems to be right. And so now we have to decide who is righter, which is not easy at all and probably even impossible. Number 3. If you like facts more than opinions, you should prefer the company of computers over the company of people. Number 4. It is blood, not gold, that is the universally recognized currency of the world. Number 5. The best or the worst happens to us when we are least expecting it. Number 6. I have been told often enough that I worry too much. Unfortunately, most of my worries at the end turn out to be justified, which makes me worry the next time even more. Needless to say, I am reminded again that I worry too much. Number 7. A wise man telling the truth is defenseless, again a lying fool. Number 8. We are constantly trying to fit the past into the Procrustean bed of the present. Number 9. Few of us are capable of killing ourselves, but if the killer is someone else, most of people most of the time offer surprisingly little resistance. Number 10. We are governed more by changing rules than by permanent principles. Number 11. Man has to work in order to exist, not to justify his existence. Number 12. Though the facts are stubborn, those who do not wish to accept them are stubborn even more. On the other hand, people seldom question the most incredible statement if the conclusions made using these statements are such they would agree with. Number 13. We all have two sets of morals, one for ourselves and another for everybody else. Number 14. You know that you are in trouble when, while talking to yourself, you realize that even you are not listening. Number 15. If there is one good thing which could be said about talking to oneself, is that nobody is going to ask you, what do you mean by this? Number 16. For those benighted many who could not find themselves justification for their prejudices, there is always an enlightened few who are more than eager to provide them with it. Number 17. It seems obvious that for people to be good friends, they have to know each other well, but only up to a certain point. For knowing each other too well often turn the best friends into the worst enemies. Number 18. Though our productivity and, as a result of it, our consumption grow fast, our desire to consume grow even faster, so that we constantly feel deprived and wanting, which in its turn compel us to produce even more. And so we find ourselves locked into the vicious circle forever, and we call it progress. Number 19. If it is true that the more we study, the more we discover how little we know, why waste all this valuable time for learning? Let's declare right from the start that the true knowledge is unobtainable and stop even trying. And you would be surprised how many people do just that and live happily ever after. Number 20. In most countries, nationalism is a passion, but the ever-practical Canadians turn it into a profession, and a very lucrative one at that. Number 21. The one thing that finally convinced me that Toronto is a world-class cosmopolitan city is hearing a Chinese telling an anti-Semitic anecdote to a wasp. Number 22. It is no wonder that Toronto is such a clean city, because at times it seems that the main preoccupation of its inhabitants is taking each other to the cleaners. Number 23. If I have to be on TV, given a choice, I would rather be in a commercial where I will get paid than in the news where I will get maimed. Number 24. They are well educated and articulate, but essentially uncommunicative in the elegant way that only the most refined wasps can be. I do not remember now where I have read this phrase, but I do remember that it struck me as an attempt to connect the qualities which are essentially contradictory, even mutually exclusive. For how can one be articulate without communicating what one articulates? Isn't it like being a singer who cannot sing, or a painter who cannot paint? Number 25. Christianity is a Greek religion with a Jewish God. It combines Jewish spirituality and Greek materiality. It unites in one an abstract and disembodied, fully divine Jehovah and a concrete, made of flesh, fully human Jesus. And this fortuitous cocktail of Jewish mysticism and Greek clarity makes it, to those intoxicated by God, irresistible. Number 26. While men are thinking about meaning of life, women are living it. Number 27. He came from a good Catholic family. His mother was a nun and his father was a priest. Number 28. It is not just the Mounties that, as the saying goes, always get their men. I knew some women who could do it just as well, if not better. For anyone who doesn't want to stick out, there is always a quiet corner to hide. As a matter of fact, there are more of such quiet corners in the world than people.